welcome back, loves. So, have you ever had a situationship that went with you through your uh, years of life? Meaning, like, you met when you were young, you met when you were in high school, you continued to chat when you're in college, you chatted through your master's degree, you chatted in your early adulthood, later on, early adulthood, right? I have. If you haven't, great. Maybe great. I have a situationship, have, it's not in present, it's past tense. I have had a situationship with this very hot man since high school. We met in high school. I thought he was the cutest thing I'd ever seen. That continued all throughout, right? Over like a decade. Now, here's the thing. I don't really remember the ways that we would come together, separate, come together, separate. That's the thing about situationships, right? A lot of them can end without really ending. And you get together, you might talk about the last time you guys stopped talking, and then everyone has their reason. Well, with him, for me, I felt like we really gave it a go in high school. But I was just not, we came from two different sides of the track, right? Like I just was not able to keep up to his speed. And I wasn't into the same things he was into. And then I think shortly after high school, I think he had a baby. And I think a year after that or 2 years after that, he had another baby. So during that time, I was really giving it space. Like, not for me. You want to have kids? Go ahead and move on. Like, no. Right. But then we would, come back together. So for some of you who don't know, I finished high school in Atlanta and I went to Spelman College. So Atlanta. And so when I moved away, when I would come back to Atlanta, I would see him and we would, reconnect and everything like that and catch up and joke and laugh. And then once again, kind of went our separate ways. And then there's another time where I finally joined the online world of Instagram. He reached out to me that way. Then we really started talking a lot more, but still come in and come out. And it never really took off. I think, looking back at it now, I think we just like to flirt with each other and like be nostalgic. And maybe if a different time, if I was maybe from the same tracks as he was or vice versa, maybe there could have been something more. But we always found a way to maintain this connection and laughter. But we would always get into the same strife when it came to communicating. As I've always wanted to have deep conversations. Not every day, not all the time. And if an ex is listening, I'm not asking you. I like to have deep conversations when needed, especially because like, what are we doing? What's happening? How do you feel about me? That stuff like that. Not like, what do you think the world is made of? Like, I'm not doing that. I could, I'm not. And he'd always want to keep it superficial. He also was not used to expressing his emotions. Like, what is that? I know we always would get into these conversations around, I love to make out. He doesn't. He's like, making out is like a tease. But you hear all the red flags as I'm talking about it, right? But we still had attraction for each other. And it just went on for years and years and years. And then he had another baby. I'm like, wow, you have a full family. Like, regardless, you're not with the women. However, like you still got a full ass family. And then we finally, like, later on in our adult lives, we finally got together. Not like official, but got together, had like a real date. Same issue came up around how we want to express feelings towards each other. And then it got to the point where it was just like, yeah, it's not going to work. Like we don't communicate the same way. It's nice to see you, but then we both know this is as far as it's going to go. It's never really going to go any further than that because honestly, I don't know for him, but it always seemed like we couldn't fit in the same world. You know what I mean? So definitely situationship for years. Not a lot of drama, just like two people who think it could be a good idea, and then again it's not. So it kind of just ended, and we haven't spoken, and I don't have any plans of reaching out to him, but it's still something sentimental, right? You can still easily fantasize and romanticize a situationship, right? Even as I'm talking about it, I can be smiling and talking about it and not really sitting too long with, oh, that is right. That is that. There was that one time where, true story, where I called him and he stood me up, and he stood me up again. And then we didn't speak for months. And then we did, and we got into it. Like, those don't always come up, right? So definitely for this episode, I want to help you to stop romanticizing as much as you can. I think there is some fun and some charm in romanticizing. Like, why not? I think romanticizing is very close to nostalgia, and nostalgia plays its own role in our lives, even though nostalgia can be not as helpful as we think it is to go down that path. However, maybe not romanticizing only, right? And seeing things for what they really are. I want you to get comfortable and ready to explore these feelings because it can get a little deep, right? So, first part of this is recognizing the fantasy. So let's dip off into romanticizing. So, like what I did with this guy, the fantasy is that these two people from opposite sides of the world could come together and have this blended, beautiful life, right? And I'm sure it can happen for many people. For us, it wasn't going to happen. It's not going to happen, right? If it did happen, I would come back and be like, here's part 2 and here's how it can work. As of today, it's not happening, right? We've known that for years now. So you don't want to just focus on the highlight reels. You want to focus on the reality. The reality is he has a full life. The reality is we like to talk about different things. The reality is I'm not into the same things he's really into, right? The reality is we both require something from each other that the other is not actually willing to give. That's just what it is. That's the reality. The reality is we like to come together and have fun and reminisce and flirt, see what the sexual tension's feeling like this time, right? That's the reality. That's the reality. So for yourself, think about, like, what are you actually focusing on? Is it reality? Is it fantasy? Ask yourself. Be really reflective with this, right? Like, are we in the real moments, or are we really focusing on the wishes, right? Sometimes I think our wishes are also about winning. Like, if I could have won him, then I could have had a high school sweetheart, as little as important that is. But when you're growing up, high school sweethearts is like, yeah, that's what I want. That's what I want. This is just not going to be that story. Okay, so be honest with yourself about the difference between reality and fantasy. So next part of this is the rose-colored glasses effect, right? So identifying the rose-colored thinking, rose-colored glasses, rose-colored thinking, whatever. It's a beautiful place to be because we get to ignore the red flags and we're not listening to what we really want to hear. There are many times with him where I heard he really didn't want to be having these like emotional conversations. He really didn't want to have deep intellectual conversations. He didn't. He liked to talk about cars and which I'm not saying it can't be deep, just I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Talked about cars. He talked about his family, but in ways of like kind of a checklist, there was really nothing for us to talk about. Like, it was just a lot of quiet. If I wasn't filling the space, we were just quietly looking at each other. And he, actually, I'll say that for another time, or maybe it'll come up later. Because there was a moment where he got really vulnerable, and then he disappeared. So I'm wondering what happened there. Anyways, back to the ignoring the red flags, right? So when people say I'm not ready for a relationship right now, and focusing on the right now, not I'm not ready for a relationship and maybe you can change my mind. It's I'm not ready for a relationship right now. If you are ready for a relationship right now, let's not ignore that. Let's not be like, oh, maybe his right now is tomorrow. Maybe he'll change his mind. We'll be together next week or 6 months from now. I want you also to understand his actions. Pay attention to his literal actions, not just the words. Ask yourself, are his actions showing commitment, or are you doing all the emotional labor, which is like what I can do all the time? If you're anything like me, I'm sure you're doing it too, right? What is his actions showing for commitment? Commitment to you, commitment to talking to you. It doesn't have to be like commitment, like exclusivity. I just mean like literal commitment, showing up for you, talking to you, being consistent, whatever it is, that thing that you need, right? So again, actions speak louder than words. We know this, we've heard this, and yet when we're in it, we're like, well, the words are so enticing. The words are so like rose colored filled. Yeah, so what, we've been talking about this for 2 years. He's always saying, I'm trying, I'm trying, I'm trying, and I'll just keep waiting 2 years. So focus on what he does, not what he says. And I know some people are probably like, well, what about progress? Yes, there is still progress. I'm talking about if I'm still saying the exact same thing and nothing has come of it. Not, okay, what's an example? I want us to move in together. We're going to move in together one day. Okay. Is he putting money to the side? Is he looking up apartments? Are we touring apartments? Is he inviting you over to a space to stay for, a few days at a time, not just like one night? You know what I mean? Like, what are the actual steps that are being taken to get to this thing that we're talking about? Or is it just like, yeah, I'm still trying to save money. Yeah, I'm still trying to save money. Yeah, it's not a good time for me right now. And here we are 2 years later. Think about stuff like that. The next part of this is really seeing reality for what it is, facing the truth. Like sometimes we just have to step back, like me with a guy, step back and be like, okay, what is the reality here? This person leaves you on ice multiple times. Multiple times. Do we want to keep doing that? Do we? Maybe not, right? I want to encourage you to ask the tough questions. I want you to ask yourself, like, am I happy? Are you happy? Do you feel valued? Do you feel seen? Truly, consistently. Not every day we're going to be feeling valued or seen by our person, the person that we want. However, overall, do I feel valued? Do I feel seen overall? Overall, am I constantly fighting to be valued and be seen? I want you to understand the importance of feeling respected and valued. When we don't feel respected and valued and we stay, then we don't feel like we're valuable. We don't feel like we're worthy. We don't feel like we're deserving of good relationships, love, quality time, all, whatever comes up. So be thinking about this, because when you're in those spaces, anxiety, confusion, excuse making, red flags, done have been there, girl, you're not alone, trust. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's emotional toll. So you have this emotional toll going on, and then you have emotional labor that you're doing, and then you're trying to figure out, are these red flags? They feel like red flags, but maybe I'll just keep waiting, see if they change. We had such a great night last night, and even though it's been 11 days since the last great night, like I'm just these are the reasons why I stay. Like all of that. Okay. So again, I want you to prioritize your happiness, have peace of mind over staying in an unfulfilling relationship. I know it's really hard. I'm never gonna be like, you need to do something about it today, leave now. No, just be thinking about it, right? Like overall, do I have happiness in relationship? Even when we're going through our challenges, do I still feel seen, heard, and respected? Do I still feel held? Do I still feel like the actions are matching the words? Only you can answer that. So the next part of this is, as we move forward with clarity, I want us to make the decision to choose yourself. When I say choose yourself, I don't mean choose yourself and be alone forever. That's not what I mean. When I say choose yourself, I'm talking about, again, choosing personal happiness over a situationship, choosing to go after, to align yourself what you really want, right? What you really want. Here's a different kind of example without talking about relationships. You've known your whole life you want to live in Chicago. You know it. You just know it. No one can tell you anything else. You want to live in Chicago. You want that life. However, people think you should stay in, I don't know, Miami, because that's the best place to be in real estate. right? Or maybe your family's there, or maybe the guy that you're still waiting on, it's been 5 years, is still in Miami, but you really want to move to Chicago. What do we do? You can invite him to move to Chicago with you. You can move to Chicago, right? Just if you know you're unhappy here, and you know that for a fact, then let's do something differently and let's choose our happiness. What's the worst that can happen? You'll be happy? I don't know. It may not be that simple, but you get my point, right? I want you to just basically just reflect on what you truly want. And I want to reassure you that walking away is not a failure. It's not a failure, it's an experience. I've had many relationships, and many situationships too, more situationships than relationships, let's be real, where I've had to walk away or they walked away from me. And it can easily feel like a failure, especially, when your friends are married and your friends start having kids and life is going on, and you just feel like, dang, where did I turn left? Like, where did I take a wrong turn? And maybe I did. However, it wasn't a failure; it's an experience. I'm still learning about myself. I'm having this different type of life. Also, knowing if I would have gotten married fresh out of college, I know I wasn't ready for a marriage. Period. So, like, you can act on strength. You can act on trusting your intuition, right? And just reminding yourself, ooh, these patterns that I've developed, this rose-colored glasses thing I've been doing, these giving excuses, ignoring all the red flags. I don't actually have to act out of that anymore. And I believe that I deserve a better partner who chooses themselves and our relationship every day, right? It's out there. Trust me, it's out there. It is out there. The more we continue to stay doing what we're doing, we're gonna believe that this is as best as it's gonna get. And then we'll keep getting ran over and dried up by these experiences. So again, choose your own happiness, seek a real fulfilling relationship. Fulfilling, right? So again, I know that the difficulty of letting go is, I guess, a double entendre. It's challenging. It's really difficult to let go, right? Self-love and clarity. Here's something I started doing. When I started dating in a different way, and this goes for, connecting with relationships outside of romance, like friendships and family, stuff like that, hairstylists, different kind of experiences. I focused on, I don't want to feel confusion. The moment I start to feel confusion for like at length, this is a sign that I cannot ignore. Confusion is one of my biggest, like, red flags, right? So seeking out self-love and clarity, I think, will really be helpful for you. Understand, like, is this a situationship? Am I romanticizing it? Am I living in fantasy, right? Not reality. What is reality? Again, if you need help, I'm here. Reach out to me. We can work together and work through all of this, because it's challenging, and it doesn't have to be ripping off a band-aid or going cold turkey. We can slowly understand how we got here, how we stayed here, what we want to do now. Okay. So again, you got this. I believe in you. Until next time. Bye. Oh, and please comment and subscribe. Oh, subscribe. If you're on YouTube, subscribe. But comment, because it definitely helps the show grow. I've seen more people starting to comment, and thank you so much for that. And now we're getting more engagement and more outreach. So thank you, and share with your friends. Okay, bye.